Hey everyone, welcome to the Let's Go Viral podcast. This is episode 11. I got Leah Pardee with me today. Leah, do you mind introducing yourself real quick to everyone?
Yeah, hello everyone. So happy to be here. I'm Leah Pardee. I am manifestation teacher. I'm a breathwork guide. I do some business coaching. I host some retreats. I host the Bare Naked Soul podcast, and I recently wrote my first book, Confessions of an Uncaged Soul. So I'm really big into sharing the lessons that I've learned and the experiences I've had and everything that has brought me to where I am through writing and through speaking. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me, and I'm really excited to dive in with you.
Thank you for that. And yeah, I was doing like just like deeper research on Leah as I do with all my guests. And like, yeah, we have like a lot of stuff to unpack. You have like such an interesting story, and you're just like doing like so many great things. Just can't wait to kind of like dive deep into those, kind of like learning like the motivation behind like everything you do and how it's impacting people. So yeah, let's start things off kind of like easy with some icebreaker questions. Where'd you grow up at? Where'd you grow up at? Hobbies? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I grew up outside of Philly. I live in Pittsburgh now, so I'm on the other side of Pennsylvania. But yeah, grew up there. I was homeschooled actually until eighth grade. So that was a really interesting part of my childhood. You know, my parents had really good intentions, and I'm grateful for like the time and energy they dedicated to that. But I did not like it. I'm just like, I've always been a social butterfly. I
Mhm.
thrive in social settings. And so I was like begging to go to school and finally went to public school in eighth grade. And so that was really challenging because I, didn't know a lot of the terms that kids were using. I didn't dress like other kids, like I didn't know what the heck like it was literally like
Yeah.
from Mean Girls, like the movie Mean Girls was me. And so yeah, so it was a really interesting time for me. I was really into working from a young age.
Mhm.
Like I started my first business when I was like 13, babysitting. I had like business cards made. I was hanging flyers. Like total strangers would find my
Mhm.
flyer and like hire me to babysit their kids, which I think is kind of crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I was 13, but I guess that's what people do. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, worked a ton, like throughout high school, was working full time, college, worked a lot. So yeah, those are kind of like the biggest things from my childhood.
Mhm. Yeah, sounds like you're very active, very
Yeah.
active, always doing things. Question, when you're because I was homeschooled too, and that's kind of how I had like a lot of free time. I'd always finish my schoolwork around 9 a.m. in the morning for the day, so it gave me a lot of time to just like go and do things. Did you ever like pick up any skills during that period as far as like when you were homeschooled? Just out of curiosity.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting that you were homeschooled too. How crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I played piano and my mom's a piano teacher, so that was kind of like a given.
Me too. Yep. Uh-huh.
Really? Oh my gosh,
Yep.
how crazy.
Uh-huh.
I was someone who, okay, so I would like dabble in things. So like I did everything, basketball, soccer, violin, dance, all the things, but I did them for like 6 months to a year at a time because I
Mhm.
really couldn't handle not being good at things, which is
Mhm.
it's really sad because and that carried me through a long time into my mid 20s, perfectionism and not wanting to do anything for fun, right? Things had to
Mhm.
get me something.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wouldn't say that I like had anything that I really like clicked for me that where I was able to use that time to like learn anything special. What about you?
Mhm.
Is that how you got into like the YouTube and all that stuff?
Uh-huh. Yep. I was what was it? Yeah, I was just messing around with, like websites, just like all this stuff, making landing pages just for fun. And then um I went back to school, not eighth grade, but ninth grade actually, and I wanted to become like the popular kids. I watched all the TV shows and movies growing up. I was like, all right, I gotta be popular somehow. So I made a goal to like become like a famous YouTuber. And I got lucky, with hard work, obviously, but like, yep, I was able to go and achieve that goal. So yeah, I picked up some skills from being homeschooled, and other people I spoke to as well. They were also homeschooled as well, like around like the middle school years. So I maybe like I don't know if it's a trend or just a coincidence, but yeah, that's why I asked.
That is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was homeschooled, the internet was invented like probably, I don't know, I was maybe like 11 when like Google came out and stuff. So when I was
Hmm.
being homeschooled, there wasn't that much internet happening. But that's funny because I had like the same thing, like especially when I got to ninth grade, I was like, I'm going to become popular.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I became very popular.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. And
Manifested.
where, I guess, like, where did that part of you like come from, as far as like wanting to just go out there and meet people, and I don't want to say climb the social ladder, but just kind of like just putting yourself out there.
I mean, so when I was little, I would always dream about being an actor. I don't know if that's like a common thing or what, but I always like really glamorize that. Would like imagine myself becoming an actor or a singer, but I wasn't ever going to go for it because it was way too unrealistic, right? Like I didn't think
Mhm,
that could really happen. I thought that anything like that was purely luck. And
mhm,
it's so funny because this past year, I randomly, through deciding to do it, pretty much, became an actor. And so I've been in a few TV commercials, and yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm like, okay, you can literally do anything,
mhm,
and no, I'm not going to be a star of a movie tomorrow,
mhm,
probably. But it's just really crazy that, like, when you decide you want to do something and you're willing to put some work towards it,
mhm,
there's not much we can't do.
mhm. Absolutely. And I love how you're able to discover that at such a young age. Which age specifically? Did you kind of like figure where that clicked in your head, like, oh, like anything's a possible, anything is possible as long as I just like set a goal, make a game plan, and just go for it.
That's a good question, because I feel like when I was young, um, even high school, even younger, I realized that, like, I had like I don't know, like I grew up pretty poor. So it was like, okay, I'm not going to have that reality, right? I'm going to
Mhm,
create a reality where that's not my experience. And so I always had that sort of drive and realized that, like, my life was my responsibility,
mhm,
but I wouldn't have thought I could like become an actor or write a book, right? Or do that
mhm,
sort of thing. So when I was 26, I first discovered like the law of attraction, and that really shifted my
mhm,
perspective in terms of making things possible, manifesting things into reality that maybe didn't look as possible before. So shortly after that, I started my business. And that's something I wouldn't have thought was possible, a couple of years before that. But
mhm,
it's just evolving.
mhm.
I'm sure there's things where a year or two from now I'll be like, damn, I didn't think this was like, oh wait,
I'm
I could
saying,
actually
yeah.
do
Uh-huh.
that. Like, it just continues.
Yeah.
But around 26 was when I really had the veil lifted of like,
Mhm,
oh, here's the world of like expectations from other people and what limitations are. And here's me. And I can really do a lot of things the way I want to
mhm.
do them.
Yeah, and I remember you mentioned something about like law of attraction on like the about you page on your website, and that was like around like 2018. Could you give us like the build up, as far as like I don't know where to start, but like as far as like I don't know, maybe like after high school up to 2018, like what was like your life? Because you were I think it said like you climbing up the corporate ladder, you just bought a house, MBA. Could you give us that build up? And then
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. So I did the college thing. Got pretty good jobs right away after college. I really wasn't willing to settle there, and I just worked my way up. I was very, very, very driven to work my way up the ladder. I was like reading all the books on that, career growth, and first person in the office, last person to leave. Like, I was like in it. I
Hmm.
was like, this is gonna happen for me. So I worked in sales. I got 4 promotions in 4 years. I was getting my MBA on the side, and it was going really well. And I was incredibly burnt out and had a lot of anxiety. My entire self-worth was what people thought of me from like my status, and
Hmm.
my job title. So, but I kind of thought that was just the way that it was. Like, I thought you just have to deal with anxiety because this is life, right? And I thought,
Hmm.
I'm just going to work a ton of hours because that's the only way to make a lot of money and be successful. And so that's what I was doing. And so, yeah, when I discovered the law of attraction, it really shifted things for me. I was like, maybe there is a different way to do this.
Hmm.
Maybe there's a different way to do this. And so shortly after, basically what happened was I started diving into more of the spiritual books,
Hmm.
like the manifestation podcasts and those type of things. and I discovered coaching, life coaching. And I was like, I could become a life coach. So once I got through the fears initially of like, oh, I couldn't do that, I'm too young, blah, 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 all the different stories, I was like, no, I'm going to do this. And that's when I started my business. So yeah, and then it took me another year or so of working 60 hours a week in the corporate world and building my business in every other free minute I basically had,
Yeah.
until I could get to the point where I could leave my corporate job.
And as far as like you discovering life coaching, did you like purchase like someone's course? Was it like a word that just kind of popped up? You're like, huh, like what's that? Let me look it up. And then you went through the wormhole. How did you discover life coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was just listening to podcasts and people were life coaches that were hosting the podcast, probably is how I found it. And then from there, I was researching, well, how do I become a life coach? And so I was coaching salespeople, so that was somewhat similar. Here are the goals. Let's make a plan towards them. Let's move through the fear and the doubt and get to the goal. And so, and then I just enrolled in a 6-month online program to become a life coach, started working with practice clients until I got paying clients. Yeah.
Yeah. And with the law of attraction, Ray, because I'm pretty sure you're working at the same time you're like going through all this like learning phase and setting up your business and everything. How was like the law of attraction helping you as far as like in your professional career at that corporate job with sales?
I really didn't apply it to my corporate job. I was like, I'm just gonna, I mean, it helped in the sense that I learned to let go of some things. And I learned to like channel my energy towards what I wanted. So focusing more on what I wanted versus focusing on what wasn't working or what I didn't have. And I remember I did some things like I had this really scary like regional vice president guy who would fly in and like interrogate the fuck out of all the sales managers.
Oh,
And
yeah, I know people like that. Yeah.
and so I would sit there and I'd be like, his name was Benji. I'd be like, Benji loves me, Benji loves me, Benji loves me. Over and over, I'd tell myself this guy loved me. And so when I would walk into the room, I would act as if I was convinced he loved me, which is confidence, right? And how do you really yell at someone who's has that energy? You don't. And it worked. I mean, I don't know. That's what I think worked. But so I was doing things like that. So I was applying it, but mostly I was like super focused on building the business and just coasting at the job until I
love it. Yeah. 1 foot in and just, you're kind of like making, there's a term for it called ghost quitting. That's the new trending word right now. Or I think that's what it's called, where you're kind of like 1 foot in, other one out. You're kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. And then how long did that process take as far as like when you made the game plan, like, all right, like I gotta do this, this, and this before I quit, and then the day you put in your 2 weeks, how long was that?
So I first started with a blog. So that was maybe like 6 months before I became a life coach. So from the time that I started the blog and the Instagram page and started building an audience, right? So then in that time period, I became a life coach. So it's probably about a year and a half in total, maybe about a year from the time I started like coaching clients.
And I'm assuming during that time you're like building your audience and everything, and just like and how were you doing that as far as like building your audience? Were you like sending them to like Instagram, a mailing list? I know there's so many ways to really go and structure it as far as like generating traffic and building that audience.
So I did a bunch of things. Yeah, I started with the blog and I put the blog on Pinterest. That was like the first thing that I was doing. And then I was getting Instagram followers from that. And I did that for about 6 months, but then I started my podcast and that really took off pretty quickly. And so that felt a lot more, I felt better about that than the blog. As much as I love writing, I felt like with the podcast, man, like when you're listening to a podcast, you can really feel like you can almost know that person, right? There's like that like, know, and trust factor pretty quickly. You can really build that connection with listeners. And podcasts are really popular. So I was like, I'm just going to do this and not do the blog as much, but I still use Pinterest to promote my podcast. What else did I do? Yeah, social media was huge, Instagram and Facebook. So, but yeah, the podcast was like one of the biggest things for me. Like, I'm so glad I started it when I did, because a ton of people come in through there.
Yeah, I think I saw on your Instagram page you have like 200,000 downloads. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm like a
Yeah,
few
it's a
hundred
nice number.
away
Yeah.
from, yeah, I'm like a couple hundred away from 250,000. So I'm like really,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna feel real nice when you cross that million mark. I just started mine, so yeah, I got ways to go. So yep, taking my time putting in the groundwork. But yeah, that's amazing. So life coach. That's a very it's specific yet broad at the same time because it could be like life coaching within like relationships such as like maintaining your marriage, maybe like dating. What else? Maybe like life coaching, career, fitness, everything, you know. What how did you like find your niche?
So for me, it was pretty easy. I had been really, really into working with confidence. Ever since a mentor of mine in the corporate world, I remember he told me that he believed that like 99% of everything we do is confidence. And
Mhm,
that really stuck with me. And I was really learning that, through all the rejection and all the failure in my sales job, because I worked in
mhm,
outside sales and then I worked as the sales manager. It was, you build so much confidence through that process. And I was working with my sales team on it, like watching these people develop their confidence through like the grit and the resilience of sales. And so I started writing about confidence in my blog. And so when I became a life coach, that was my thing, confidence coaching.
mhm. I
Yeah.
love it. And I love how you're kind of building up like your database, your journal as you're working to where like you're able I'm a big fan of like building your database, like journaling as you go, and then using that to kind of like help out people later on. You know, I love that so much.
Yeah,
It's like a win-win for everyone. I love that.
absolutely.
Yeah. And have you always been like a big journaler as far as like just like documenting things, writing things down? Just out of curiosity.
I think I did a lot of journaling when I was a little girl, like that, but that was like more like having a diary and writing like down what I did and
Mhm,
whatever. But I got really into personal development journaling right around the same time that I discovered the law of attraction. Like it was all like once I started like listening to all the podcasts and reading all the books, it was in there. And I remember one day I was like, okay, I'm going to spend 1 month journaling and meditating every day, 5 minutes, of each. And and then that's not like that's not crazy. Like that's totally doable. I still have my full-time job and
mhm,
it totally changed my life. You know,
mhm,
I feel like journaling is such a powerful way to connect with yourself, your intuition,
mhm,
and yeah, and keep track of things and like document your progress. So
mhm.
it's been so huge for me.
One thing I love about journaling so much is that like if you do it, I gratitude journal like every night before I go to bed. Been doing it for the past couple of months, and just by and some of the questions I ask myself is like, well, I put down like 5 things I'm grateful for that day without repeating myself from the previous days. Yep,
Ooh.
that gets you thinking. But also questions such as like, what frustrated me today? What wins that I have today? Kind of like how I was feeling, and just by being able to like look back at kind of like my history as far as like what frustrated me, that's really helped me as far as like figuring out like just like mood swings, just like some interesting insights about myself. I don't know if you do that, but yeah, that's kind of what I do.
That's
Just like that deep
amazing.
data. Yeah.
I love the idea of like a gratitude where like you can't repeat things. That's
Hmm.
really, really cool. I think gratitude journaling is huge.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it gets you I'll be going throughout the day just like looking for positive things I could write down, like, oh, she smiled at me. I'm gonna go write that down tonight. It's so
Yeah, because it
funny.
trains your brain. Like before I learned about all this stuff, I was walking around kind of with a glass half empty. Now you
Hmm.
wouldn't have thought that if you met me because I was bubbly and outgoing and happy, but I was in a victim mindset about a lot of things.
Hmm.
I thought a lot of things were luck that weren't, right? And I was yeah, really seeing the negative side of things more than the positive. And so when you flip that switch, you train your brain to like be on the lookout for positive things. And that's such a
Hmm.
better way to live.
Hmm. And there's still gonna be negative things out there, but you kind of like overlook it, or you find the positive in it, like, oh, like that door opened, but it opened up this door. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a
exactly.
big fan of that there. Random question, do you do visualization? I see you got the follow your dreams.
Yeah.
A little frame right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of different things. I do journaling, I do visualization, I do EFT tapping a lot,
Mhm,
meditation, breath work. I kind of do whatever like feels good in the moment, but for me, it's all about like what would make me feel a little bit better right now, you know?
mhm,
So I love visualizing the things I'm manifesting as if they're happening and feeling those feelings in my body.
mhm,
I also love hypnosis. My best friend's a hypnotherapist, so I get a
mhm.
lot of hypnosis in, and it's so good.
I've always wanted to go to and try that out just for like the experience, you know. I'm a big fan of just like trying out different things to yeah, just like just for the experience. I can go out there and tell people like, oh, I liked it or I didn't. Just go out there and experiencing things. That's one thing I'm a big fan of there. But um could you dive a bit deeper into it? There's two things I saw on your about page. The first thing like breath work. Can you explain a little bit more about that? Like why it's needed and like kind of what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So breath work is essentially an active meditation. It's just different breathing patterns that you focus
Mhm,
on, and they do a number of different things. So a really big reason why I became a breathwork facilitator and why I like teach other people how to become facilitators through Hill Breathwork Academy is we store a lot of emotions in our body. So like when we're little kids, we're not taught that it's okay to feel our feelings, right? Like some people were, but the vast majority of people, it's like be a big girl, be a big boy. You know, we don't express our feelings in front of other people because it makes them uncomfortable. Like you go to
mhm,
school, you're not just like crying at school. Right. You're supposed to hide your feelings. You go to
mhm,
work, you're not supposed to express your feelings. So we we think that we can just avoid our emotions by whatever we go to, our cell phones, Netflix, alcohol, food, all types of avoidance techniques. We're really just suppressing them. And so those emotions, they're all made of energy, just like every cell in our
mhm,
bodies, and they stay in our bodies when we don't process them. You know, they need to be processed and felt. That's why they're there. So we have all of that in us, and then we get triggered all the time. Someone says something that pisses us off. There's that thing that we don't want to talk about because it'll make us sad or reminds us that thing. That's all just like us, a trigger rubbing up against those emotions inside of us that are stuck
mhm,
there that need to be processed. And so breath work actually helps to tap into that level of the body, shakes up the energy there, and allows you to release those repressed emotions. So when you do
mhm,
the breathing techniques, it allows you to just feel lighter. Like you just like feel really, really good, really refreshed, really light, because you're
mhm,
literally releasing those emotions through the body.
mhm.
So that's one thing that's really cool about it. The other thing is, I mean, there's so much about breath work, but one of the other really cool things is it shuts off the default mode network part of the brain, which is the part that when you like sit down to try to meditate is just nonstop chatterboxing, right?
Mhm, yep, uh-huh.
Cuts that part off. So when you do it before you meditate, it makes it so much easier to just get into a really relaxed and calm place. So
Mhm.
like almost every morning I'm doing breath work and then I'm meditating, and it's just like so grounding and it feels so good. So yeah, I'm like obsessed.
Is that why some people before they go to sleep, they take like deep breaths in and out to kind of like slow down their brains that they're able to like go to sleep? Because I know for me, like my head, it just bounces around. It's like 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely. Like anything that involves controlled breath is technically breath work. So even just taking some slow, intentional, calm breaths anytime, whether you're trying to fall asleep, whether you are getting your teeth at the dentist, right? Anything that's stressful or anxiety inducing, taking those conscious breaths, it's going to really, really make a big impact in just relaxing your body, getting your nervous system relaxed. It's a really good habit to create.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And one thing I love that you mentioned is how it helps you like release just like those emotions, that tension, you know, because like it really does like those emotions just like um just that negative energy inside of your body, you know, even though you could say like, ah no, it's not there, you know, but like even though like if uh with it being there, it really does like it affects you in like other area of your in other areas of your life. I remember a couple weeks ago, I won't get like I won't like get too much into it, but like I was in a situation ship to where like we kind of held like a grudge against each other, you know. And within like
Mhm.
those couple of days, even at work, when I'm like not thinking of this person, like my my spark, my charisma, my charm, like not charm, but just kind of like my glow wasn't there, you know. Like I was kind of like at like 98%, but like that negative energy that was like still inside of me, it was holding me back from um being at 100, being at 100% to where like that my glow, my charm, my spark, you know. And what I mean by that is just kind of like I can walk into the room and not say anything, and people are like, "Whoa, like who's that guy?" That I'm yeah, I'm talking about that type of energy, you know. And I was like, I had to like contact her, like, "Hey, like let's just resolve this, you know, this is like a waste of time." And like, yeah, like especially like just knowing all this right here, that really opened my eyes as far as like the importance of just like releasing negative energy. So yeah, I don't know. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. And that brings up something else too. Like a term for that is like it's an energy leak. So
Mhm.
anything where we have a loose end that we haven't tied up, that person that we're avoiding texting, but we know we need to have that conversation, that bill we know was sitting there that we have to pay, but we're avoiding it, right? All those like that email we have to send that we're like, fuck, that email's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
what do I do? Like those are all energy leaks. So when you have those loose ends that are like weighing on you, it's literally like leaking your energy out. So you're not at your 100%. You're like
Mhm.
leaking that out. And when you close up those ends and you say, no, 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 I'm going to resolve this, these little things, so they're not leaking from my energy, boom, you feel like so much better.
Mhm. It's like a light switch too. You're like, wow, that feels so good, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that like those energy leaks, it's not like a big drain on you, like 30, 40%. I'm just using numbers. That's the only way I can really explain it. But like it's like a percent, half percent. It's like so small, but it's enough to it just dims your light, you know. There's when you look at like the top athletes in the world, like in the Olympics, like positions like 1 through 10, like they're all apart by like milliseconds, you know. It's like that
Mhm.
little bit, you know. So yeah, like every little bit counts. So that's one thing I kind of keep in my mind there.
Yeah, it's like our energy is so important.
Hmm.
It's huge. It's how we feel. It's our emotional state. It's going to impact our motivation. It's going to impact our health. So many things. So for me, yeah, for me, it's always like, okay, like, how am I feeling? How is my energy? What can I do to feel a little bit better? What can I do to clean up loose ends?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So as far as like daily things to kind of always keep your energy in check, I don't know if it's like daily, like a couple days or weekly. What's like your routine? I don't know if that's the right word to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a routine. I do a morning routine. I'm really big on that because I feel like if you set yourself up in the morning to feeling really good, then you can notice when you start to feel bad. You can notice when you start to feel triggered or annoyed or worried, things that are going to take you away from your best high vibe state. So in the morning, I've been drinking like chai tea and I usually read first thing in the morning. And then I do meditation and breath work and usually yoga. Sometimes I'll go for a walk. Um, I journal almost every day. And then everything else is like, if I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling, um, a big thing I'll do is like just sit with the feelings. Like it's so big to like just allow yourself to feel it because we have to feel it to heal it. So just sitting and observing my state and practicing observing it versus being it, right? Just noticing it, letting it be there, and then feeling it until it dissipates. And then sometimes I'll also do EFT tapping. So like I love Brad Yates on YouTube.
Mhm.
So I'll just like Google whatever, or like I'll search on YouTube, what am I experiencing? Brad
Mhm.
Eats tapping, and it'll be for money, it'll be for love, it'll
Mhm.
be for whatever it is, anxiety.
Can you
Um,
dive deeper into that as far as like how it works in the back end?
yeah, yeah. So EFT tapping is also known as emotional freedom technique.
Mhm.
I don't know, like I'm not like a practitioner in that to where I know like exactly how it works, but essentially you're tapping on like the meridian points on your body, like that are used in
Mhm.
acupuncture. And there are these different like energy points in the body. And you're saying these like phrases while you tap. And it just moves the energy around in such a way that it's really, really helpful. That's like all I know. I don't know like exactly how it works, but it's
Sounds
super,
interesting.
super good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I got so many things to research.
Like
One that keeps popping up is like sound healing. I know there's like
mm,
some people that have like sound healing studios. I don't know if you do that or look into that, or if that's like a whole nother different segment.
it's
As far as
similar. I mean, there's so much interesting science behind sound healing too. It's literally like the vibration, it's like the vibrations in your body. And when you hear the sound, it's like sound bowls, like the crystal sound bowls, you know, for anyone who's like doesn't has no idea what we're talking about. And they make like a beautiful sound and it like really does something crazy to your body. I don't know exactly what, but it's very relaxing and healing. I've been to several like sound healing sessions where like the person's playing a bunch of different sound bowls and you're laying there and you're like, whoa, it's like so trippy. I have one sound bowl and I'll bring it to like my breathwork sessions sometimes,
Yeah.
like classes. It's really cool.
I don't have this question written down. Just kind of came to mind as you were speaking. It's a little high. It's a little high level. You don't have to answer it, but like, does this have something to do with like quantum physics? Is it like an interconnection?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know,
Yeah.
super high level, but yeah,
Yes, I am not the person who can explain that very well, but
yeah.
yes, I love reading
Mhm.
books that like explain that, like make those connections. Dr. Joe Dispenza, are you familiar with him?
The name sounds familiar, but carry on.
Yeah, he's just like a super famous guy who writes about all of that. It's so interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super just super high level. Every time I like read about or watch like a in-depth video, it just goes right over my head. I need like
Yeah, it's
something
a
dumbed
little
down, you
crazy.
know, for kids.
It's a little
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, but once you like get like a grasp of like the concept, you're like, whoa, like it just changes your whole like paradigm and everything, and like um things just start making sense, you know. So yeah, I was just curious. I just want to know.
Yeah, and for
Yeah.
people who are skeptical of this kind of stuff, like can this stuff really heal you? Like why meditate? Why do breath work? Like people who need the science explanations, that like the quantum physics side of it can be really helpful because it kind of it just makes that connection
Hmm.
where it can seem a little woo-woo or like a little too holistic, right? So it's yeah, people who are more left-brained and need that like science explanation, it is out there. It's
Yep.
really
May gotta may gotta read that book or watch that video a couple of times, but yeah, it'll explain it for you.
yes.
Yeah. So how did you leverage Instagram to grow your coaching business?
Yeah, so it's been a while with using Instagram. I would say some of the I guess how I've done it is really showing up authentically. You
Hmm.
know, that's what's made people follow along with my story. Is me just showing up as I am and speaking in my very natural way that I speak. It's not me. I
Hmm.
don't use filters. Not that there's anything wrong with
Hmm.
using filters. I just really show up as myself.
Hmm.
You know, I don't really edit my podcast. I talk the way I talk. And
I
same
love
with
it.
right. And people love it. It's real and it's something that's very easy to connect with.
Mhm.
And so yeah, and for me it's been a lot of sharing my story.
Mhm.
So not just the educational stuff, but also like who I am, my life, my experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? Like
Mhm.
that's how I've done it with Instagram. I think that there's a lot to be said about making those like really authentic connections that way,
Mhm.
you know, allowing people to be messaging you and to the best that you can, depending on, you know, there gets to be a point when you get too busy to respond to every message, but making those authentic conversations with people, allowing people to know they can reach out to you is huge.
Mhm.
So those have been some of the biggest things. Um, yeah.
As far as like growth and reach, which one is yeah, I guess like which one was better, Instagram or having the podcast, as far as like which brought the most growth to your business?
Oh, that's a tough question because I view the podcast more of like a funnel. So the
Mhm.
podcast is out there. It's shareable, right? People share podcasts. People that are searching podcasts can find mine. So it's out there, like, at least before Reels with Instagram,
Mhm.
things weren't as shareable. And also, like, you weren't really being shown new pages, right? You would have to
Mhm.
find someone's page. You weren't just gonna stumble upon it, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
podcasts, you're gonna look at lists of podcasts. So that's been like a funnel for me where I'm funneling people from the podcast to my Instagram,
Mhm.
and then I'm selling to them there. So I do
Mhm.
sell on my podcast, like I sell things, but Instagram is where I'm really connecting with people. My
Mhm.
Instagram stories is where I'm really making the most sales.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And as
Yeah.
far as like stories, you just because my stories run 24/7. I think they've been going for the past 2.5 years, and I don't have like a content creation plan. I just like I don't know. There could be like a balloon on the ground. I'll take a picture of it. I could make something out of that. It's just like authentic. How do you go about like your Instagram stories?
Yeah, same thing, just very intuitive. Whatever I feel guided to say, however I feel guided to show up, whatever I feel
Mhm.
guided to teach on or talk about. But yeah, I don't really have a plan either. I mean, I definitely make plans around my launches.
Mhm.
That's pretty much what I do. But on the daily with Instagram, just showing up whatever I feel led to share.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
love it. And not only is it like fulfilling for you, but also your audience. They can tell like, wow, like like she's like really authentic, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you use any other platforms besides like Instagram and the podcast? You did mention like Facebook, Pinterest, and the blog. Anything else?
Yeah, so I don't use Pinterest anymore. Although like it was great, but it got to the point where I just didn't feel like doing it anymore. And at one point I
Mhm.
hired someone. For a while there, I had someone else like pinning my pins, doing that stuff for me.
Mhm.
And yeah, and that kind of fizzled out, and I just really didn't feel like doing it anymore. So I really focus on Instagram and Facebook and the podcast now.
Mhm.
Facebook groups have been huge for me. I
Oh
love
yeah.
doing Facebook groups, especially local ones. I feel like that's been
Mhm.
huge. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
like it. I love it. So, I'm a writer at heart. I'm working on my own book. Can you tell me about I know you got like two books out, Confessions of an Uncaged Soul and Heal Your Shit Journal. Can you tell me about the first one, Confessions of an Uncaged Soul? What like inspired you to really put that together?
Yeah, so I always knew I'd write a book. Always loved writing, and I always wanted to write a memoir.
Mhm.
So I'm obsessed with memoirs. I love them. So I wanted to share my journey. So I basically decided to write a book where I would share my journey, and that's what I did. And it's simple and also not, because it was really hard to get through the fear. There was a lot of resistance. The fear doesn't always show up as like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid to write this book. It's not like that. It's like excuses for waiting, right? It's
Mhm.
like, oh, but now's not the best time because what about this thing? What about that thing?
Mhm.
Oh, I better wait, right? But it's really just fear.
Mhm.
So a lot of the process was moving through that resistance. And then, of course, there was the aspect of how much of my childhood can I share without totally
Mhm.
upsetting people? Um, and other parts of my life that involve other people. So navigating that was definitely a challenge. But the process of writing, super intuitive, always every day, praying for guidance, just writing what I felt led to write. And I self-published through Amazon, which I found to be a really, really good process, really simple. Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Mhm.
Just wrote it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And with your book, were you like building an audience as you were like writing, or did you just like distribute it to like your existing audience like through your business and your network?
Yeah, so I was just building my audience the same way that I always am.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I pretty much so I did have some early readers. I did that whole program where I like had maybe, yeah, like a handful of people that I like gave early copies of the book to so they
Mhm.
could read it and like leave me reviews and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then promoted it whenever it first came out, still promote it whenever I basically now it's like when someone leaves a review, I'm like, here's the review, here's the link to the
Yeah.
book. Or when someone messages me about the book or shares it on Instagram, I basically share it that way
Hmm.
and on podcast interviews. But yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah. And as far as your book, is it like because you did say you've always wanted to write your own book. Was it to like tick off that life dream of yours? Or is it also kind of like a funnel within your business? I know people they kind of do like both, maybe one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, definitely both. Definitely was something I wanted to do. I also like really and just enjoy writing. But it was certainly, yeah, it was certainly like an accomplishment sort of thing. And it was also definitely a business move. It's definitely like people say, like a book is like a giant business card. It kind of is like it's a
Uh-huh.
funnel, right? It's like
Yeah.
people can find it through other sources and it leads them to my Instagram and then I
Hmm.
can sell things. So yeah,
I,
totally.
I love it. And then the Heal Your Shit journal. Can you dive deeper into that?
Yeah, so I've been really into journaling as we discussed, and I wanted to make my own journal that was full of prompts and kind of takes people
Hmm.
through the process of learning how to heal your shit, do the personal development
Hmm.
journaling, do the inner work, look at your limiting beliefs and work through them and see that they're not really true. And the same with your resistance and your excuses and your self-doubt. So it's all about building confidence, and just letting things go. Like, yeah, like letting go of the things that are weighing you down. So it's just like guides people through the process. It's journaling prompts. And that one came out first. I did that one last November
Hmm.
and it was really, really good. Yeah, I mean, it's on Amazon. It's just one of those things that's really nice because both of these books are just now passive income. So
Hmm.
they're out there, people keep buying them. It's great.
Hmm. Man, must be great. So I'll be there soon.
Yes,
I'll
you
be there
will.
really soon.
Yes.
So you got book one, two, I'm assuming three's on the way.
Not yet. So I'm sure I'll write more books, but
Mhm.
I'm waiting till I feel inspired to. So I'm definitely going to feel inspired at some point to write another book.
Mhm. And I love that how kind of how you go like through inspiration because I know a lot of people they'll just crank stuff out to make an extra buck or so, but like just doing things by inspiration, it just makes things just more meaningful, you know. Yeah, way more meaningful and fulfilling. There's actually like passion and behind the words, and it just like um you're able to like reach people's souls essentially. So I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So as far as like your books, your coaching program and everything, do you have like any like cool like case studies, success stories as far as like how you're able to just like help people just like transform their lives?
Yeah. One of my favorites, I mean, I had a girl who came to me about a year and a half ago, working through like a lot of relationships, a lot of like shame, um, things like that, self-doubt in her personal life. And so we worked through that for a while, and it got to the point where now she's getting ready to put her first song on Spotify as a singer.
Mhm.
She's a fabulous singer. But it was, can I really do that? Am I
Mhm.
really good at singing? Can I really make a career of that? Right. Working through that stuff. But
Mhm.
that stuff didn't even come up. That opportunity never even was there until we worked through like the personal stuff, the
Mhm.
the self-doubt, yeah, the like lack of confidence. And so it's really beautiful when you can help people get to the root of those issues and pull
Mhm.
out those weeds and see them become just this vibrant, confident, happy human. And then
Mhm.
bam, seeing what they can then go and do with that. And like
Mhm.
what, like their idea of like limitations just goes away.
Yeah. And when you see that transformation, how does it make you feel?
It's amazing. It's the best thing ever.
Mhm. Do
Yeah.
you have like I know for me, well, I just moved here, so I gotta still decorate everything. But like my old place, I had like a wall, just like all like my success stories, testimonials, and everything. Do you have something similar like that to where like, let's say you're not feeling inspired, you just like glance over at it and you're like, shoot, like I gotta get back to work.
Oh, I love that. I don't, I don't have anything like that. I definitely like, I think in the beginning when I was having a lot of self-doubt with myself as a coach,
Mhm,
I would look at my testimonials like through my highlight reel of them on Instagram,
mhm.
and I would go through and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's, and I've done that with my book. I've gone through times where I'm like, oh my gosh, what if my book sucks? And then I'll like
Mhm.
read my Amazon reviews and be like, okay, yeah, no, the book's
Yeah.
great. Right. So definitely like have done that, but I love the idea of having it on a wall at your home. That's awesome.
Hmm. Yep, I always gotta have I'm a visual person, so I like seeing things, you know.
Yeah.
So do you have like any exciting plans for the future as far as like new things coming up, maybe new programs?
Hmm. Nothing yet. I I'm sure things will come and I'm just
Hmm.
letting them come, as that inspiration hits. I have recently really started talking more about money mindset, done a ton of healing work around that. So I could definitely see myself having courses and even like a journal around money mindset. I
Hmm.
love talking about that. But yeah, just whatever the inspiration hits, I've learned to let myself kind of evolve and pivot my business whenever that comes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love it. One more thing I did forget to ask was about I saw you do like a breath work retreat. I remember seeing that. Yeah, can you dive into that real quick?
Yeah, so I've done 3 or 4 retreats now. And yeah, breathwork's always a huge thing that we do at them. We've done other stuff. I've done Reiki, I've done massage. I do like a lot of journaling circles. Yeah, we just do all different things, but it's really magical to get people in a room together who are all like-minded, who are, growth
Hmm.
oriented and really have deep, intimate conversations. It's really beautiful.
Hmm. Two more questions for you. So, if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. The biggest thing I would do differently is really just go easier on myself. When I started this journey of my business, I was really, really, really struggling with perfectionism. And I wouldn't have seen it as struggling because it was useful, right? It was what I thought got me where I had gotten in my career. So I was really a perfectionist, really a workaholic, big time. And I saw those as strengths, whereas they were definitely holding me back, from tapping into my intuition, from allowing myself to be happy and experience more joy in life. And also, yeah, like the intuition thing is so huge because I think one part of it is the hustle, the working hard, the going for it. Then the other part of it is the creativity, the inspiration. And so much of that comes when you let yourself off the hook of working 24/7 and being obsessed. So I would mainly go back, like if I was starting over, I would start from a surrendered place and I would start the business from not being as attached to the outcomes, not being as attached to what people think about it. Of course, that the journey of building the business is how I learned all of this, how I learned to let go of these things. It's
Mhm,
such a huge part of it. So it's not like it was bad to have experienced all of this. But now when I start new ventures, there's such a sense of that peace, that surrender, that like knowing that my worth is from within and no amount of followers, no amount of money that I can make can ever change my worth.
mhm,
So I don't need to be so attached that I'm freaking out about numbers or freaking out if the launch isn't going well or if things aren't selling. Like I don't need to be tying that. It doesn't mean anything about me, right? I was making in the beginning, I was making everything mean something about me, that I wasn't good enough. And so that made it really, really hard. And I'm really grateful that I've learned to let go of a lot of that. So that's like the big thing I would do differently. In terms of strategy, I mean, starting my podcast right away would be the obvious thing, but I wasn't ready to start my podcast right away, right? I
Mhm,
needed the journey that led up to that to, yeah, to put that into place. So I don't know that I would change anything else.
mhm.
Yeah.
With you mentioned two things like being creative and listening to your intuition. I know you got your daily your routine. For me, I get my inspiration, like, I mean, the best ideas whenever I got this thing called like a thinking trip. So I'll just like write my problems down like a clipboard. And then I'll write down the problem and I'll purposely put down like solution one, solution two, solution three, and leave them blank because like us humans, we fill in space. If you were to if you were to give me a TV, um even though I don't watch TV, I'll eventually start using the TV in certain ways, you know? So I kind of use that same logic um towards like problem solving, and then I'll just go out. The mountains are not too far from me, so I'll just travel the mountains. And then just by being in nature, I'm able to like get like my best ideas. What's like your creative process? Yeah, I guess like how do you get inspiration and find that creativity as far as like yeah, how do you get inspiration?
Yeah, I love that so much. That makes me think of the how if we give ourselves an hour to do a task, we'll use up that hour. But if we give ourselves 15 minutes, we'll get it done in 15 minutes.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. Nature's really grounding for me too. So that's definitely a part of it. I feel like for me, I connect to my intuition a lot through writing, like
Mhm,
journaling. So I will just ask myself, hey, what is it I really desire to do here? Because I feel like desire is our intuition. What is the should? Like, where is the should right now? What am I doing because I'm supposed to, or other people want me to? Okay, well, I'm not going to do that. But
mhm,
yeah, a lot of it is going into nature, is going into meditation, and or just even like cooking at home or like walking my dog, letting kind of like having knowing that problem, but like letting it go and then just
mhm,
letting that solution come. I feel
mhm.
like it's pretty similar, but I love to use journaling too. Like I'll write down like, what's my next step here? What am I missing here? And I'll just write what comes up. And
Mhm.
I've gotten to the point where I'm just trusting that that's my intuition.
So, I bought into a high ticket program, yeah, like 3 years ago, and that's how I met my accountability partner. We're both 21 years old, and we've been holding each other accountable for like the past like 2 years now. And this past last month on our call, he was talking about like how like he kind of felt like, I mean, business is booming for him and everything's going well, but he felt like I don't know, like there was something like deeper, just kind of like going to one of those moments, you know. So he had the idea of like going through this month by setting like no goals, just by like bouncing around, you know, and kind of like letting things flow and just like listening to his intuition. And the fun thing is
Mm.
that like I did that like a week before we hopped on our call, and I got like some amazing ideas from it. So I don't know, like what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think there's like a time and a place for goals. I love most months, I love having goals, but I definitely will get a little burnout from it. And then I'll have periods where I'm more in flow. Um, I like to have goals, but not be super attached to them. Like
Mhm,
again, like they're not about me. Like I am not fail. Like I'm not a worse human if I didn't hit my income goal this month, right?
mhm,
I'm not good enough suddenly because this thing didn't happen in my business. So I think it's really important for like the process of detaching from them. But I think there's a place for both. I think it's balance, because
mhm,
we can go too far on one side or the other. So I'm always checking in with my balance there.
mhm. Yep, everything requires a balance, like being introverted, extroverted, saving, spending money. Yeah,
Yeah,
it all
exactly.
requires a balance. Good
Yeah.
stuff. And then last question is, if you could do something every day for the rest of your life that makes you happy, what would that be?
Breath work. Yeah.
I love that.
Calming everyone. Yes, it's so good.
I love it. Mine is still playing the piano.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yep, I gotta have my
Therapeutic.
piano. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still play?
No.
Come on.
So when I was like 14,
Yeah.
I went to a piano recital and I don't know what happened, but I got up there after playing piano my whole life. I got up there and I just like put my hands in the wrong position. And you know what that would sound like, "Dur, dur, dur,
Yeah,
dur,"
uh-huh.
and just total humiliation. You know, that's an age where like, holy shit, you're vulnerable to
Mm-hmm.
like self-confidence issues. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just so mortifying. I never touched a piano again.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it just plays in your head over and over again. Yeah, man.
Yeah. So I went with my friend who's a hypnotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a year ago, we were doing a hypnosis. So I was getting into like I was doing a little bit of public speaking and we were doing some hypnosis around it. And she was taking me back through like my timeline and that memory came up and we like
Mm-hmm.
healed it.
Good stuff.
But
Man.
I love that you still play. That's amazing.
Yep. I don't like I'm not a fan of teaching piano. I hate piano theory. It's just it takes the fun out of it. I just like playing for fun, you know. There's a public piano. Let out the blues or my ragtime. So yeah.
So good.
Yep. But yeah, it was great having you on the podcast, Leah. For all the listeners slash watchers, I'll have all her links down below in the description. If you want to like just like learn more about her, follow her on Instagram or see some of her work, or even like just taking on some of her coaching, you know. So I'll have all those links down below in the description. But yeah, that's it for episode 11 of the finding of the Let's Go Viral podcast. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya. Bye.